Shut up and sit down.
It's time! UFC returns with another numbered event this weekend. It's UFC 301 in Rio de Janeiro. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the main event on the card. It is Alejandro Pantoja making his second title defense in his hometown, in his home country, against Steve Erceg. There's been a lot of questions around this fight about whether or not Steve Erceg deserves the fight and about whether or not this is the right fight for Alexander Pantoja. There's a lot of people writing Steve Erceg off here. It's only his third UFC fight. It's very, very quick to be getting a UFC title shot, especially after it wasn't as if he had like a massive pro career. He did have a good few pro fights, but it wasn't as if he came to the UFC with a big name in the way Alex Pereira did. So it is a very, very fast title shot, this. He's only had 3 fights in the UFC and this is his 4th. Obviously last time out against Matt Schnell, he did get the walk-off KO, and a fucking lovely KO it was too. And I think that is why he has warranted this title shot over the likes of Muhammad Mokaev. Being a UK fan, I did want to see Muhammad Mokaev getting this title shot. I did do a prediction video at the start of the year where I predicted who I think will be the champions at the end of 2024. And for the flyweight division, I did pick Muhammad Mokaev. He's not getting the shot this time, and I actually am quite happy about it, and I'll tell you why I'm happy about it further on in the video. Steve Erceg has a big task in his hands here. For me, this is like one of them fights where it was Alejandro Pantoja really wanted to fight in his hometown, and there wasn't really any proper real contenders. You know, there was no obvious contenders, which is why Steve Erceg is getting the opportunity to go and fight Alexander Pantoja in his hometown. I think this whole card in general, UFC 301, we are really seeing like a hangover of the brilliant events that we've had over UFC, pretty much from 298 right up to 300. All very, very good events with big names, the big name stars headlining and co-mains, and the full main cards were absolutely stacked. We'll not compare UFC 300 because 300 was like an abnormal card, but let's even compare UFC 298 to 299. All of the main card is big stars, whereas in this main card, you know, the third fight from the end, we've got Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith hasn't really made any noise in the light heavyweight division in ages. You know, he hasn't really picked up any good wins. He's not a contender. You know, it's pretty much enough in this fight. Yes, it's important for him to get back in the win column, but this isn't a fight that's got a lot at stake here. Paul Craig in the same scenario. I really want to see Paul Craig win on Saturday night, but again, it's a fight. If Paul Craig wins, it's not as if he's like a couple fights away from a title shot. They've still got a long way to go. So it is quite surprising that this is an actual numbered event. After Alex Pereira knocked out Jamal Hill at UFC 300, he did call to be on this event, and I thought that they might have done it just to try and beef the card out a bit, but it hasn't happened and it wasn't to be, and this is the card we've been left with, and we can't really complain too much because, as I say, we had absolutely banging events right up in the lead up to UFC 300, so hopefully we have this numbered event and then UFC 302, again we've got another stacked event, so this one we're just going to have to deal with it. There's some great fights on the card. I'm only going to be looking at the main event in this video. There's a lot of people writing Steve Erceg off here, and I can get why. Alejandro Pantoja, he is going to be a big favourite, but there are certain things Steve Erceg can do here to win this fight. Steve Erceg is no sitting duck by no means. He's a great fighter, and I think personally he's looked like one of the best boxers in the roster based on his first 3 UFC fights. This guy's boxing is incredibly slick. He throws 1-2s, he's good at in close, he's good at counter punching, he's good at range. His striking, mainly his boxing, is very, very good, and it will be hard to compete with. For Steve Erceg to win this fight, he has to try and keep it standing. Alejandro Pantoja, his grappling is very, very good, and Steve Erceg's grappling is good too, but I just think Pantoja is better in jiu-jitsu and wrestling. I think he's better at shooting takedowns, and he's better at stuffing takedowns, and he's better at the overall jiu-jitsu ground game as well. If you look at Steve Erceg's debut against David Dvorak, you will see a fine display of boxing, a great display of boxing. He got a unanimous decision win that night, but his hands were like lightning. They're so quick, and he's really slick in the way he sets up the punches. He also got a unanimous decision then against Costa as well, which was another great win for him, and he looked very, very good, quite similar to the Dvorak fight where his hands looked like lightning quick, very fast and throwing the combinations. The 1-2s were landing like a strange amount, because 1-2s, normally fighters can see a 1-2 coming, and like a lot of the time you need to spice it up with something a little fancier, but the way Steven Erceg throws his 1-2s. They're so quick. And the fighters in the past, you know, David Dvorak, Costa, and even Matt Schnell, they all struggled to see these 1-2s coming. So in my opinion, for Steve Erceg, he has to keep this fight standing if he's in with a chance. Steve Erceg's ground game, as I mentioned, it is good, but it's just not to the level of Alejandro Pantoja for me. We haven't seen a massive amount of his ground game in the UFC. More pre-UFC in his first few pro fights, he did use it a lot more, but he still didn't shoot a massive amount of takedowns. It was more he would maybe rock his opponent, or he would scramble with his opponent on the feet, and he ends up getting a takedown, whether it's like a front headlock or whether he gets to the back. But he doesn't shoot for your traditional single legs and double legs, which I think Pantoja will do more of. Steve Erceg, we have seen him do it in the UFC a couple of times, but it's not his traditional way of taking down. He tends to like to get in close and maybe get a trip or get a scramble, or even when he rocks his opponent, he is very good at then taking them down and finishing them on the ground. Steve Erceg, he doesn't throw a massive amount of kicks, but when he does, they can be deadly. Let's look at the kick he dropped against David Dvorak. That was a perfectly placed kick onto the top of the head, the left high kick, and he's got the potential to do this. We've seen him try and throw this a couple of times. He doesn't throw it enough, in my opinion. I think he's too boxing heavy and he doesn't throw in enough kicks. I think when you're fighting guys at the level of Alejandro Pantoja, I think he could deal with the boxing alone. But if Erceg starts mixing it up with kicks, it becomes a lot more difficult and a lot more complex to defend against. So I would like to see him throw more kicks on Saturday night as well. For Pantoja, I think his way to win here is to try and get the fight to the ground. As I said, he's far better at jiu-jitsu, his wrestling's better. It won't be easy for him by no means. Steve Erceg is very, very good on the ground too. It won't be easy for Pantoja, but I think that is just where he's really levels above Steve Erceg. I won't be surprised to see Pantoja stand and trade with him here as well, because Pantoja, he's a very good boxer himself. He is a very good striker. These are both very well-rounded fighters, and it's typical of the flyweight division. You tend to see this in the flyweight division. The fighters are a lot more well-rounded. In the sense that their grappling's really technical and so is their striking. The technique and the levels of the flyweight division, it is like no other in my opinion. They cannot rely on power, so it's all about speed and it's all about technique, and they are very, very, very good at doing this. And these two fighters are right up there as well with Steve Erceg and Pantoja. I can see Pantoja really coming out and putting the pressure on Steve Erceg, and if I was his coach, I would encourage him to do this too. We've seen Pantoja do this against Perez and do it against Royval, where in the first sort of 10-15 seconds he comes out, and quite similar to what Max Holloway done in the last 10 seconds, Pantoja's doing it in the first 10-15 seconds. He's coming out and really putting the pressure on and meeting in the middle and trying to push his opponent back, and I can see him doing this again against Steve Erceg, and I think it would be smart for him to do this. This is Steve Erceg. As I said, it's his 4th fight in the UFC. He was ranked 9th. He's currently ranked 9th in the division. He hasn't fought, he wouldn't have fought in this atmosphere before going into Pantoja's hometown in Brazil. The Brazilian fans are mad. They all absolutely love the sport and love the scrap. So they'll be booing him. They'll be cheering for Pantoja. And it's going to be a really, really difficult environment for Steve Erceg to go in and fight at, especially when he's not used to being in such big cards and headlining events. You know, this is going to be like a surreal moment for him. His last fight was at the Apex. For Pantoja, he really has to put the pressure on Erceg early, and we have seen him do it before, so it wouldn't surprise me if he does this. For Steve Erceg, he really has to get by these first couple of minutes and try and feel his way into the fight. But if Pantoja can get the job done before Steve Erceg has time to settle into the fight, Pantoja could have him out of there if he really puts the pressure on him here in the first 30 seconds. As I said, we've seen him do it before, so it would not surprise me to see him do it again here. How do I see this fight playing out then, and what sort of scenarios can I see happening here? I've spoke about in this channel, and loads of MMA fans speak about this fact or the stat. Champions under the middleweight division that's over the age of 35 are now 2, and I think it's like 28 or 29 to 2, so they've won 2 fights and they've lost 28 in title fights. This stat is. I thought Volk was going to break this curse, but he didn't. He got knocked out by Topuria. And Alejandro Pantoja, he is 34, so he still got a year left. But based on this, you can really see that speed really matters in these lighter weight divisions, and especially at flyweight, speed matters more than any other division. Is Pantoja starting to slow at the age of 34? It may be possible. And Steve Erceg's hands, they're lightning fast, as I've said 100 times before in this video. He's so quick, and if he can capitalise on Pantoja, if he's slowing down, I think we've seen Pantoja slowing down before. We've seen him get gassed out before. If Steve Erceg can really let his hands go, I don't know if Pantoja will still have the pace and the speed to keep up with it at the age of 34. This fight, no matter who it goes to, will have scrambles galore. This is what I love about the flyweight division. It's like watching a fight and fast forward, scramble after scramble, and you never know who's going to end up on top. It's so quick paced, it's unbelievable. So for my official prediction, I think we'll have one of these scrambles. and I can see Pantoja taking down Steve Erceg. I think the first 3 rounds will be a bit of a back and forth. I think Pantoja will stand and trade with Erceg. I think Erceg might win 1 or 2 rounds, maybe 1 round. But I think Pantoja, towards the end of the rounds, I can see him shooting for takedowns because he won't like it on the feet with Steve Erceg. He definitely won't. So I can see him shooting for takedowns eventually and really controlling him. And I don't think he'll be able to get the finish. I have my official prediction as in the championship rounds, Pantoja is going to get a rear naked choke finish. This is Steve Erceg's first time going 5 rounds. It's his first time in the championship rounds in the UFC. So this is going to be completely new to him. Alejandro Pantoja, he's been there, done it before. I just think he'll be too experienced when the fight gets to this stage, and I can see him getting a rear naked choke in either round 4 or round 5. Another reason why I'm not going for an upset here as well is that Pantoja has never been finished, and I think for Steve Erceg to win this fight, I think he would have to finish Pantoja because Pantoja's grappling's just too good. I think worst case scenario, if Pantoja's getting pieced up on the feet, he can take Erceg down, and I just don't think Steve Erceg has the power in his hands to knock out Pantoja, and I don't think Pantoja will allow him to get that close. I think he'll take him down before he gets the opportunity. Pantoja's never been finished before. He does have a pretty good chin. Another reason why I think this will go into the championship rounds and I think Pantoja will get the finish is even if Erceg has success on his feet in the first few rounds, I don't think he'll have enough to knock out Pantoja. Pantoja's never been finished before, and I don't think Steve Erceg's going to be the first guy to do it. I think he can win rounds within the first part of the fight, but once it comes in the championship rounds, I just can't see Steve Erceg having the experience and the know-how to get Pantoja out of there. I just don't think his hands are powerful enough. Yes, he knocked out Matt Schnell, but he really pieced up Costa and he pieced up David Dvorak as well, and he wasn't able to put them away. He wasn't able to finish them, so I can't see Alejandro Pantoja being any different. This is pretty exciting for UK fans because I do think that whoever wins this, Muhammad Mokaev will fight next. Muhammad Mokaev's wanting to fight at UFC 304. I don't think that'll be the title fight by any means, but I think if he can win and get a decent win at that UFC 304, he has to be the next in line for this title shot. He maybe should have been now, but the reason I'm happy that it's not now is because Muhammad Mokaev would have to do the job that Steve Erceg's doing, which is going into Alejandro Pantoja's backyard and trying to take his title off them with very little experience at this level. Steve Erceg is really up against it here when you look at the experience, and that's the only reason that I'm betting against him here, or that I'm picking against him. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. Make sure that you drop a comment and let me know who you think will win this fight, and I will get back to every single comment. I promise I'll get back to every single comment and we can have a chin wag about who's going to win this fight. And if you've got any other big moments on this card that you want to discuss, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. Make sure that if you enjoy this content to like, share and subscribe. I've got the 50 subscribers, a big landmark for me. I'm only a new channel, so 50 subscribers, I'm doing well. I would love to get to 100, so make sure that if you're liking this and you're enjoying the content, to hit subscribe. Also hit the bell and you'll get a notification about my next video. Enjoy watching the fights this weekend, and fingers crossed we get a couple of wins for Jack Shore, a good UK man, a good Welsh man, and Paul Craig, a good Scottish, another UK man as well. So fingers crossed they get the win on Saturday night. Thanks for sticking around and I'll see you in the next video.